This is the 2016 Mount Rainier Open, our first semifinal. Jake Bredenbeck against David Bobby Horn. Quick side out for Bobby Horn. Nice get by Jake. Ooh, and the first point then to Bobby Horn. Jake and Bobby have met up 5 times since August of 2015. Horn defeated Bredenbeck at the San Luis Open for his first ever WRT title in August. And he defeated him at the Suncoast Open in September in the semifinals in a tiebreaker. Jake has beaten David Bobby Horn 3 times at the Grace Warrior Open, the Midwest Championships, where Jake won his second WRT title, and the San Diego Open in November. It's going to be a good match here between number 2 and number 3. Actually, all top 4 seeds are in the semifinals here this evening. Big swing from Jake for the side out. Point for David Bobby Horn. Ooh. That was a kind of untraditional return and a point for Horn. Horn starting to turn things up out there. 5 serving 1 in game 1. going to replay that. Just this past week, Jake Bredenbeck made the U.S. national doubles team with his doubles partner, Jose Diaz. So congratulations to Jake and Diaz. Bobby starting out strong in game one. He was playing really solid earlier today against Jake's brother, Sam Bredenbeck. He defeated Sam 15-2, 15-4 in the quarterfinals this morning. Jake off to a bit of a slow start. We saw that in his quarterfinal earlier today against Christian Longoria, which went to tiebreaker. In his quarterfinal earlier today against Longoria, Jake really turned it on in game two, defeating Longoria 15-0 and winning the tiebreaker 11-4. Oh, Jake got that. Tough rally here between the two. Pretty evenly matched as we have number 2 versus number 3. Oh, and that ball going out. We are here at the Washington Athletic Club, where they have about a three-quarter wall in the back of the stadium court. So they're going to replay that. No? Point? Out, so there's a point for someone. What's the score now? Okay, take the scoreboard out. Wow. Great diving get from Bobby Horn. Big skip from Bobby Horn breaks his streak, puts Jake back in the service box. Whoa. Crazy behind the back from Horn. Kind of got lucky on a spin around there. Long reach there for Bredenbeck. Doesn't make it. Got away with not moving his feet, but there's a side out for Horn. Big swing from Horn for another point. That's 2 in a row. Another reverse pinch from Bobby Horn. In a row for Bobby Horn. Nice hands from Bobby Horn, 4 in a row. Sounds like he has the crowd on his side a little bit. Now, it's not typical for Jake Bredenbeck to call a timeout after a bit of a run like this. I imagine he's going to go for a big, powerful hit to get himself back into the service box. All right, first game goes to David Bobby Horn. We'll be back with more of our first semifinal here this evening, live from the Washington Athletic Club. And we're back live at the 2016 Mount Rainier semifinals. I'm Laura McCormick with the WRT, and we are broadcasting live from the Washington Athletic Club in the beautiful downtown Seattle. We have David Bobby Horn winning game 1 15-5 over Jake Bredenbeck. And anything can happen as we enter game 2. Shot was good. There's a side out for Bredenbeck. Looks like Bobby Horn, his wristband came out of his racket. Well, of course, this is a quick equipment timeout. There's 2 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a moment. Looks like Jake is turning up the intensity out there. Big serve from Bredenbeck. We're seeing Jake turn it up in game 2 as we saw in his quarterfinal earlier today. And Bobby Horn keeping his cool out there in game 2, 0 serving 4. Looks like Bobby Horn is going to take a timeout as he makes his way back against Jake Bredenbeck in game 2. We'll be right back with more live from Seattle right after this. And we're back live at the 2016 Mount Rainier Open. I'd like to let you guys know about a couple upcoming events. The WRT will be live streaming the Pan American Racquetball Championship from San Luis Potosi at La Loma on March 24th, 25th, and 26th. You can catch the broadcast on the WRT website or the Park website and Facebook. And coming up in June 16th to 18th, there will be a pro doubles tournament. That's pro doubles only at Belmont Shore in Long Beach, California, with $20,000 prize money and a pro-am event on June 15th. For details, you guys can get that on the World Racquetball Tour website at worldracquetballtour.com or follow us on Facebook at World R-Ball Tour. A lot of pressure when you're up there at the front of the court. Quick side out for Bobby. Big swing from Jake in the middle of the court, has his feet set. Now, one thing to note, I mentioned these two have played each other 5 times since August. 4 of those 5 times going to breaker. I wouldn't expect anything less today, as Jake looks like he's on the warpath right now. Good reverse pinch from Jake Bredenbeck for the side out. Another intense rally between Horn and Bredenbeck, getting some love from the crowd as these two are battling it out in game 2. Feel like Bobby got a little lucky on that as Jake skipped it. Bobby's hitting it right back to the center of the court. Horn closing the gap on Bredenbeck now, 6-7. Big nasty overhead swing from Bredenbeck. Nice serve from Bredenbeck for an ace. That's going to tie it up for Bobby Horn, 8 serving 8.
But I lost the
Tied up again, 9-9, second tie of game 2. Oof. Nice serve from Bredenbeck, another ace. Nice shot down the line from Horn for the side out. I think Bobby's going to have to keep the balls going down to the sides, not right in the center, if he wants to come back against Bredenbeck. Another great serve from Jake. David Horn calling a timeout, seeing if he can break Bredenbeck's streak. We'll be right back with more of our first semifinal of the Mount Rainier Open. Bobby Horn calling the timeout as Bredenbeck creeps into the lead 13-9 with 5 in a row before the timeout. Ooh. And with that, Bredenbeck wins game 2, 15-9. And as the statistics have shown us, these guys are going to breaker. We'll be back with more of game 3 right after this.
Hey everybody, Anthony with Gearbox. Have you ever wondered when or why you should get your racket restrung? What signs to look for? Well, I'm here to shed some light on those questions. First, we need to talk about the function of a good string bed. The main purpose of the string is to stretch upon the impact of the ball, then snap back in a consistent manner. This is called the string's resiliency. Basically, a higher resiliency means you decrease the amount of mishits, and we all could use a little bit of that. Now that we know the function of a good string, we can talk about why you should restring your racket. This will involve 3 major points: string breakdown, tension, and notching. Number 1, string is primarily composed of plastic. Plastic is susceptible to a process called creeping. Creeping is the breakdown over time due to overuse and exposure to UV rays. Inside the string, there is moisture and oils. In the creeping process, those get lost and string becomes dry and brittle. The second focus is on string tension. You might not realize it, but string immediately loses its tension once it's played with. It will relax to a much lower tension after the first game of play. So if you're one of those people that like it tight, you better get your racket restrung regularly. Third, after repeated hitting, string will have an effect called notching. Notching is when the string makes a notch or a groove at the cross point of 2 strings. When you have these notches in the string does not stretch and snap back efficiently. Lastly, you probably want to know how often you should get your racket restrung. The Gearbox general rule of thumb is to restring your racket the same number of times you play a week. So if you play about 3 times a week, we suggest you restring your racket about 3 times a year. If you have any questions about string, what type to use, different levels of tension, or general questions about our products, feel free to call one of our specialists or shoot us an email and we'll gladly help. That's all for now. Time for me to go restring my racket.
Well, it's game 3 here of our first semifinal of the evening. Coming up after this, we do have Alex Cardona against Andre Paria. Bredenbeck coming back in game 2, as we've seen him do earlier today in his quarterfinal against Christian Longoria. Bobby Horn was winning 9-8, and Bredenbeck served his way all the way to 13 before Bobby called the timeout. And then Bredenbeck came back and closed out those last 2 points, meaning he scored 7 in a row to close out game 2. But anything can happen in this tiebreaker, as it's now 1st to 11. Don't forget to tune in to the finals tomorrow. We have a double feature for those of you watching. At 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be live streaming the men's singles final, and right after that, at 1 p.m., the doubles final. First point to David Bobby Horn with a tough rally to open up game 3. Reverse pinch from Bredenbeck for the point. Flat roll out from Horn. Oof. And Jake answers right back. I think we're in for a long tiebreaker, folks. Number 2 and number 3 evenly matched and traditionally taking it to breaker. Jake winning 3 out of the last 5 times these guys have played against each other. But anything can happen here today. It's a new day and a new year. Ace serve for Bredenbeck. He's been firing those off in this match. Broken ball, they're going to switch that out. Oof. Nice reach from Horn. Can't get up in time. Smart play from Bredenbeck, throwing him to the other side. Oof. Bobby Horn calling a timeout. We'll be right back with more of Game 3 in just a moment. And we're back live at the 2016 Mount Rainier Open, where David Bobby Horn called the timeout against Jake Bredenbeck. See if he can get himself back in the lead in Game 3. Score is 2 serving 5. Horn calling that timeout as he stepped up to serve. Quick side out for Bredenbeck, still looking focused from his momentum game in Game 2. Unfortunate for Jake as he hits himself. Ooh. Jake's been serving aces all match, going for it on the first serve. Nice shot from Bobby Horn. Some crowd love as they pump up David Bobby Horn. Both Jake and Bobby are playing doubles this weekend. Jake is paired up with his brother Sam Bredenbeck. And Bobby Horn paired up with also the semifinalist that's coming up later this evening, Andre Padilla. You can check out the draw and follow along with the tournament at bit.ly/Mount Rainier Open 16. Two have been stuck at 2-6 for quite some time. See if Bobby can change that. Jake Bredenbeck calling the timeout. We'll be right back with more of our semifinal tiebreaker in just a moment. Jake Bredenbeck switching out his glove and hopping right back on the court, firing off his serve and getting a point. Unfortunate for Bobby Horn, he's going to go ahead and take a timeout, see if he can regain his focus against Bredenbeck. We'll be right back in just a moment. And we're back live in our tiebreaker, where Jake Bredenbeck is leading 8-2 over David Bobby Horn. Anything can happen. These two have gone to tiebreaker many times before. Let's see if the timeout works for Bobby Horn's advantage. And he can side out Jake Bredenbeck. Coming up after this, we have number 1, Alex Cardona, against number 4, Andre Padilla. So don't go anywhere. There's more racquetball here this evening and tomorrow, starting at 12 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be live streaming the final, and right after that, the doubles final. Big swing from Bredenbeck. Horn thinking it's skipped. Ref says it's 9-2. Ref calls it a good serve. That means it's now match point for Jake Bredenbeck. That was 2 quick points in a row that Bobby wasn't expecting those calls to go that way. Match point, 10-2. Bobby Horn holding on in game 3. Second match point opportunity for Bredenbeck. Ooh, and Bobby sides him out again. Third match point for Bredenbeck. Two bounces and Bobby Horn sides out Bredenbeck for the third time. And a point for Horn. Great rally between these two, another physical rally. And now Bredenbeck's 4th game point. Looking for wet spot. Skip for Bobby Horn means Jake Bredenbeck wins 11-3 in the tiebreaker. Bredenbeck will be going on to the finals then tomorrow at 12 noon. Coming up next, we have number 1 Alex Cardona versus number 4 Andre Perea. So don't go anywhere. There's more racquetball here with the WRT live from Seattle.